Hello, this is RJ Wellington, and today in this audio/video I will be doing something different. I will be sharing a private audio that I share only with my former students. My system of transformation dynamics is a 12-week program. And when we finish that program, my former students have access to a private area of my website. If you go there, you see. And there I'm constantly uploading audios that are not released to the public. But this one is one that I felt, the drive or the inspiration to share with the public, so you can understand, you can realize how powerful this information is, how powerful our system is, not because I teach it, but because I learn from my masters. Okay, so just keep in mind that what you will hear from now on will be very informal. When I talk to my students, I talk as if I'm talking to a friend close to me. So I don't have a script, I don't have guidelines, I just allow myself to speak through it. Okay, so, and this audio is just to show you how a true metaphysicist lives his life, to show you that what we practice is not empty philosophy. It is a practical system that produces results in your life every day, every moment, if you will. And I hope it inspires you, because all these experiences are true. And I have a lot of testimonials, experiences from my students, but I always like to share with my private students in my private session these experiences, so they feel inspired and they know that they are in the right track. They got what they asked for. Alright? So, if you wish, after you listen to this, to dive into the rabbit hole, you can contact me. My system is totally risk-free. Nobody pays me 1 single cent in advance. So you can go to my website, www.truemetaphysics.com, and have the full information. And I'll be glad to work with you. But pay attention to this audio. It is very revealing, very important, and it brings together a lot of things. You might not understand a few terms that I share, because they are things that I share privately with my students. But just pay attention to the overall meaning, the overall message of how much power you can have over your reality. That is my mission. I came here with a mission to help people in this new energy, to reach that state, going from philosophical knowledge to practical, everyday application, a lifestyle of magic and miracles. I hope you enjoy it, and send your comments. I'm always open to hear from you. May the force be with you, always. Hello everybody, this is RJ Wellington, and this is another audio for our private student session. And as all of you know, I was in my country for a couple of weeks. I just came back to New York, and as always I had an amazing experience, amazing adventures into consciousness, expansion of consciousness that I will be sharing with you here. This audio is called Living the Power, The Secret to Miracles and Magic, Part 2, because a couple of weeks ago I released The Secret to Miracles and Magic, and I hope you all listen to it. Alright? So, here, with the experiences I will share with you, I will be clarifying a few concepts that we study in transformation dynamics, including switching parallel realities in the spot, instantaneously, and embracing the unknown the right way. And why do I do this to you? First, I promise to give you lifetime upgrades and continuing education so you can keep on your growth. Alright? And I do not try to be. I am a living example of what I teach. And I think that's what you expect from a teacher, from a master, right? So, I took this trip to visit my family, and I haven't been in Brazil for a little over 3 years. And whenever we do something like taking a trip, what we're really doing is driving into the unknown. Because we don't know what is going to happen, if everything is going to work out fine, if the plane will reach its destination, right? Now, this is a very important metaphysical concept, the paradox of the unknown. And most humans are terrified of jumping into the unknown, into that mysterious field of consciousness that most people don't dare to explore. But there is where the problem lies. You know why? Because the unknown is where all that you want in life is. Because if they were in the known, you wouldn't be looking after them. So if you are afraid of jumping into the unknown, you are limiting your life greatly. And you understand when we finish this audio. Hopefully you understand once and for all. So I will share a few of the experiences that I had during this trip, just to show you how I use the principles I teach, transformation dynamics, every single moment of my life. It is my lifestyle, as I taught you, to make that your lifestyle. So just relax. This might be a long audio, I never know, because I source it from my infinite consciousness, so I don't know how it is going to end. So grab a cup of coffee or a glass of wine and just enjoy this. So, for this trip, we chose a flight from Delta Airlines because they have some special seats. They are kind of in between economy class and business class. I think they are called comfort seats, or comfort plus. But this flight had a connection in Atlanta. I usually take a direct flight to Brazil, but we chose this one because they had the seats exactly as we wanted, me and my wife. And when we got to the airport in New York, JFK, the plane that would take us from New York to Atlanta had a great delay, and I'm talking about probably 1 hour. And we were on the clock. When you travel, if you did traveling, especially international traveling, with these connections, with a short time in between, if you miss the connecting flight, they're not going to wait for you. But what happens? As soon as I heard that the flight was delayed, there was constant messages in the sound system. I follow what I teach. I kept my cool. I put myself in the threshold. I used all the principles that I have taught you. I don't use anything special, as I told you before. All that I had to teach you, I taught you. Everything that I do every day. So to make this short, we are able to get a very delayed flight, and we got to Atlanta in time. When we got into the plane, the last few people were boarding the plane. Okay? So there you see that example I told some of you of time distortion. The time passed. We were even supposed to miss the plane if this synchronicity didn't happen. So that was the first thing. Then we got to Rio. We visited Rio de Janeiro, which is my town, and Recife, which is in the northeast of Brazil, which is my wife's town. And Brazil has, unfortunately, a fame of being kind of dangerous. There might be violence, not everywhere all the time, but some people might experience some violence. And we went through all this trip. We moved sometimes late in the night through towns, and we didn't see anything at all. It was as if we were in the safest places in the planet, because that's what we set our minds to. Then, when I was in Rio, in my brother's house, he lives in a very nice place, 3 floors house, but sometimes there they have problems with the water supply. And during those days, it was a Friday, we got there on a Friday afternoon, and my niece's 15th birthday would be on the Saturday evening. And if I lost that flight, by the way, I would miss that party, so I had to get into that flight. I told you it was really delayed, otherwise I would miss the event that I went for, mainly. So in my brother's house, they were having a problem with the water supply. And he mentioned buying one of these trucks, I think it's pipe trucks, that carry water to fill his water supply in his home. So we thought about that, to say, we'll share with you, was about 600 of the Brazilian currency, which is quite expensive. So the next day in the morning, I was there by his veranda or his balcony, and I see a big truck arriving, and I thought, it came from my brother, maybe he called and I didn't know. And bottom line, the truck was for a neighbor of his, and this lady filled her water supplies, and she asked my brother, there's a lot left, do you want to use it? And my brother asked, how much will you share? She said, you don't have to pay anything, I just don't want to waste. I pay for the whole truck, and that is almost half of the truck. So the bottom line, my brother's water supply was filled for several days. We did not expend a cent, and another, what some people would call a coincidence, a miracle, I call just a synchronicity, when you tune it into that state. To that state that I take you in the meta affirmation. Every second, in every way, my life is better and better. Another thing that happened in Rio. The day we left Rio to my wife's estate, my brother drove us to the airport. And his car was having some weird sounds. But I never worry about anything. We just mentioned to him, when we get to the airport, the car kept doing, even after he turned off the engine, the car continued doing that sound. And we didn't know. We got in the plane to the other state, and later on he sends me a message and he says, you don't know what happened. As soon as I left you in the airport, the car broke down in the parking of the airport. So I had to call a tow truck. Everything's fine. He's fine. Everything was resolved for him also very quickly. But another thing there, it could break down one day before our trip. It could break down in the long road from his house to the airport. But as soon as we got off the car and got into our plane, he found out that his car was broken. When we got to my wife's town, Recife, we reserved a hotel there, a beachfront hotel with a sea view. Our room would be in front of the sea, and we would have that view. Now, for a couple of years back, my wife I think first she had a dream about this place, this location, and she said, I want to stay in that hotel because it's what most resembles this view that I have in my mind. And when we got there, the room that we got was at the same eye level, vision level that she had dreamed about, she had envisioned before. There was kind of a deck in the hotel, a place that we sat by the pool to have our breakfast, and was exactly as she envisioned in the hotel. So I told her, you had this vision a couple of years ago and have been thinking about that. So what happens? In this concept of parallel realities and no time or space, you are right now sending this information to you a couple of years ago. Is that connection, that cycle of connection that you have with the past, present, and future, as you know it, in linear time. But when you go out of linearity, whatever vision that you have, and that is the lesson, pay attention, because that might be Your anima, your future self telling you, hey, this is what is going to happen. Alright? So that was another amazing thing. Everything being exactly as she envisioned. Another thing that we experienced, they always complain of heavy traffic of cars, and both in Rio and Recife. And we went through, both in Rio my brother was driving us, and in Recife we hired a drive for a daily fee. And everywhere we went to, they said, yeah, well, that is great. We don't have as much traffic as we used to have every day. And those were weekdays. They were not holidays. And we were moving, flowing freely through the cities with the least amount of traffic. And they comment on that. Okay? Now, a big one, a huge one that is unbelievable to some people. When we were to take our flight back to New York, we had to do another extra stop in São Paulo to take the flight, the Delta flight to New York. And when we got to the airport, it was Sunday, this past Sunday evening, we got to the counter of the airlines, the connecting airlines that was operating that Delta, and they check in the computers and they say, we don't have reservations for you. It might be a mistake by Delta, and we have to contact them. Now imagine you with a deadline to get back to your house. My wife had to work yesterday, and someone telling you, you will not get into this flight. And one of the personnel of the airlines, the Brazilian Airlines, told us, I'm sorry, but you will miss this flight because you have to connect Delta, and probably you can go in the next flight tomorrow. And again, I kept my cool. I spoke to Anima. I asked how would the perfect self react in the situation. I was there in that spot, folks, that I call the threshold moment, in which your decision on how to react makes all the difference. So, of course, they ask us to wait for the solution, for which flight we will take the next day or whatever. And we sat down, and I was there as if nothing was happening, as if everything was perfect. And then suddenly someone comes rushing, running, say, you know, we can put you in this flight. We're going to call now. And when they told us we wouldn't make it to that flight, it was 10 minutes before the departure. And this guy came running like 15 minutes later, and he said, we are holding the plane for you, so you don't miss this flight. And I tell you, you that have traveled abroad or anywhere, when someone tells you, you will miss this flight, we can do nothing about it, how do you react? What was your experience before? When they say that, that is so. But I told myself, I am in control of my reality. I have Anima, which is my higher self, going ahead of me, as I taught you to use. The same way, again, I use the same processes that I taught you. And bottom line, it was like a movie scene. Me and my wife rushing to the airport, the people speaking in radios, oh, they are coming, they are arriving, hold the door open. We made it to the flight. Okay, and I tell you, I have to confess, when I got in my seat in the airplane, I cried. I cried in gratitude because I say, yeah, universe, you sometimes surprises even me. And that is an amazing feeling when you realize that the truth that you study, that these principles are real, they apply to your life. Okay? Another thing, when we got to New York, there is now a new system of computer checking. I'm a legal resident. My wife is a citizen. So I check on the computer, I answer a few questions about bringing things into the country. They have a lot of restrictions. And by mistake, I press yes for something. So when I went through the immigration agent, he said, why did you answer yes? Because he asked me, did you bring anything that shouldn't be? I said, no. And he said, so why did you answer yes? I look at him and I just told him, tell me what I answered, because I don't remember. Maybe I made a mistake. And he marked down something in my paper. So when we pass through customs, even I was expecting them to stop us and open our luggage to check, to see if we were, lying. And, in the United States, you cannot lie to immigration and customs services. That can be jail time. But when we passed through them, they didn't even look at us. It was as if we were invisible. So no bag checks. Okay? So those are a few things that happen, folks, that they seem. To some of you, they say, oh, this is simple. No. You have to validate every small experience. Because every miracle is a miracle. Miracles have no size. So, and finally, just to wrap up, one of my cousins, my wife is cousin, she's very sensitive. And the next day we spoke to her, she sent us a WhatsApp message, and she said, you guys have such a physical and spiritual power that we can't understand where that comes from, how you feel around you, what you express from your energy field. And to put the cream on the cake, the dollar in Brazil was very high. Since August, it was over 4 of the Brazilian currency for $1. Yesterday, after we arrived in the United States, we spent a lot of money there on pleasure and gifts. I saw in the Brazilian news that the dollar fell to $3.99 the day we returned, which was the lowest level since August of this year. So bottom line, the dollar waited for us to get into the United States to fall. So our money would be less value there than it was. So you have choices. You can say, oh, these are all coincidences. I don't live a life of coincidences. I live a life of power, synchronicity, and miracles. And that's what I teach you, right? In the 12-week session. And here you see, everything that happened was based on the principles that I taught you. I trusted Anima in all the circumstances, especially that delay when we told you we missed the flight. And a few minutes later, we switched into a reality in which we were able to get to that flight. That is a parallel reality or parallel line, switch instantaneously. I asked myself during those times where I put in the spot, how would the perfect self react to that? Another technique that you did your perfect self template. And I kept my focus. And what is my focus? I always ask myself, what is best for me? And I always declare, whatever happens is the best for me. I didn't get in a state of anger, of fear. I didn't ask for that flight to stop and wait for us as it did. And I'm not a celebrity, I'm not a politician. I try to keep a very low profile life, not to call attention. So they had no reason to hold their flight full. Everybody sitting, the doors were closing. And they radioed the plane and they say, hold that door for like 15 more minutes or so. Okay? But again, I didn't ask for that necessarily, and that is another lesson. I say, whatever has to happen will happen. Easily and effortlessly, for my best benefit. Okay? Pay attention to that. And now comes the paradox. Some of you may ask, whoa, why? If you are a master of metaphysics, if you are Illuminati, if you are reaching your ascension, why you still have to be put in the spot like that? To have a flight delay to put you in that state, in the threshold? That seems to be a paradox, but not to us, the Illuminati, because we sign up to be in this matrix, in this social programming field of energy, and we don't take those things as obstacles, as setbacks. We take those as opportunities for growth. Because I tell you, whenever you go through these experiences and you see miracles, reality shifts happening in front of your eyes immediately, instantly, you come out of that much more stronger. So I can tell you now, my energy field might be 10, 15% stronger than when I began this trip. And that is expansion of consciousness, as I teach you how to do, exactly how to do, to reach ascension, to reach rejuvenation, to reach immortality, and to make your normal everyday life easy, as my life is. Okay? So we go through these opportunities for growth, to release the remaining contradicting beliefs, if you will, or just to have fun. As I told you before, I taught you to have fun in the matrix, not to fight it. I never fight or oppose anything. I never put myself down. Oh, I did it wrong, that's why it is not working. If I did it, we would lose that flight to New York, right? A quick example. A few years ago, my wife had a very serious liver condition, and she never drank. She doesn't drink anything. But it was kind of a poisoning. And we were in the hospital, and literally the doctor said, your liver seems to be melting away. The enzymes are too high. And probably you need a liver transplant. You cannot leave the hospital. And I look at my wife. She knows all that I know. And I ask her, what do you want? She knew what that question meant. And she said, I want to get the hell out of here. And we got the hell out of there without medical approval. She had to sign a lot of disclaimers saying, if I die tonight in my bed, nobody can sue the hospital. But the bottom line is, to make it short, in a few weeks she was totally healed. She went back, she did the exams, and another doctor said, it was either a misdiagnosis or a miracle happened, because you don't have anything in your liver. There is nothing wrong. And I thought to myself, no, it wasn't a misdiagnosis. It was us shifting into a parallel reality in which she was never sick. And you know those things, folks. I taught you everything that I know in our private sessions. And through this private area, I'm always releasing audios to reinforce those concepts like this one, right? So, the bottom line here, you have to dive into the unknown without fear of anything. Okay? Now, you can use the unknown as a source of fear, but you can handle it to help you grow. Because I tell you, life would be very boring if you knew everything. The good thing about life is these opportunities for growth, like I had several in this trip, and I was able to get away with those. So, life would be boring if you knew everything. So, everything you know, you want now, is in the unknown. So now there is a secret that I mentioned to some of you over the phone, and some of you might not have heard, because you know all our sessions are individualized. They channel specifically for your needs. But the secret to enjoy, to embrace the unknown and grow, expand your consciousness, is to shift into a positive unknown. Instead of thinking, oh, I'm afraid of what might happen, you say, I know that everything that will happen from now on will be to my benefit, to my growth, to my joy, to my bliss, to my enlightenment, to my immortality. That's what we do every day, me and some of my students, some of my advanced students. Okay? So let me give you a metaphor. I call the movie theater metaphor. When you go to a movie, you don't want to know every scene of the movie, every dialogue. When you go to enjoy a movie, you go into the unknown. But now, you can do something. You have the power of choice. So you can choose. I just want watch comedy movies. So you might not like horror movies. So you don't go into those movies to get into the unknown that might frighten you. You go into a comedy movie. You don't know exactly what is going to happen in that movie, otherwise it would be a spoiler. But you know you'll get out of that theater happier than when you got in. And that is the secret to life, to embracing the unknown. If you use all the processes that I gave you, the 4 pillars of transformation dynamics, the meta affirmation that I give freely, You will experience that unknown as growth opportunities all the time. Okay? Now, some of you might say, oh, Wellington, you are strong, you are master, you are Illuminati, that only happens to you. No. I told you again, I told you everything that I know at this point, and I'm teaching you new things through our private students area for my former students, that, as I promise you, is free for life. You have a continuing education for all your life with me after participating in our 12 weeks program. And I will give you an example. It's not only me. You remember one of the latest audios on that declaration, or that quote-unquote prayer that I taught you. And you saw, I never taught that to the public, and I never will, because those are exclusive for you, who trusted me to teach you, to guide you. And this person is a student, and as you know, I always keep my students' privacy. He wrote me not too long ago, and he said, open quotes, "Hi Wellington, thank you for your latest audio. I implemented the affirmation in my life, and it set off an incredible string of events. I'm still amazed at the effectiveness of this. I started saying it 10 times a day on Monday. This actually triggered at first a massive healing of self-worth issues and trauma. And then on Friday, the dam of abundance bursted open. These last 3 days, as a result, have been quite possibly some of the most synchronistic ever in my life. And as you know, I have a ton of them already as it is. It has gotten to the point where my thoughts are manifesting instantaneously, literally. I can't thank you enough for sharing this technique." Close quotes. So you see, it's not only me. Those who follow this, not because I say, again, this is a universal teaching brought to us from very advanced civilizations that are already there in the future and coming back from the future to teach these words. So pay attention to this, folks. Again, pay attention to the information that gets to you, because as transformation dynamics graduates, you are 100 light years ahead of everybody else who is still struggling with the law of attraction, with the secret, with New Age teachings, because they try and they don't get results. But all of you know that, have gotten results from practicing this system. Alright? So to conclude, miracles, synchronicities, they must become a common thing in your mind. Don't look at them, don't see them as amazing things that happen to me once in a while. Every day, every moment, like I taught you how to harmonize with nature, talk to everything around you and the process. Sometimes, and some of you have reported to me, you wake up with a headache, and you do the reality shifting of the perfect self. You talk to Anima, and that headache is gone in a few minutes. You are, as I told you before, you are an elite. You have access to information that 7 billion people in this planet don't. So make good use of it. Alright? I love you all. May the force be with you always.